Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's VRMA gathering on housekeeping and maintenance. For those of you on the call who are not familiar with VRMA, we are the Vacation Rental Management Association. We provide best-in-class education, networking, and professional development opportunities to make a difference for you and your company. We work worldwide on behalf of our manager and supplier members to advance the vacation rental industry through education, information, networking, and advocacy. As of January 1st, 2020, Vacation Rental Housekeeping Professionals, or VRHP, is now a part of VRMA. Both VRHP and VRMA have been long-standing partners, and this exciting change will expand the influence and reach of both organizations. Our goal is to maintain continuity of representation and services for the industry, enhance the level of benefits for current VRHP members, enhance educational offerings for all member companies, and grow the overall membership base of vacation rental professionals. Check out the VRMA website for more information on our partnership. VRHP is excited to announce 3 opportunities for certification: the Certified Vacation Rental Housekeeper, the Certified Vacation Rental Inspector, and the Certified Vacation Rental Housekeeping Professional. Check out the VRMA website for more information on the CVRH, which is currently available. The other 2 certifications are being released soon. Dirk, is there anything you'd like to add on these certification opportunities?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for us to show the communities that we're in, as well as the guests and owners that we work with, how critical and how serious we take housekeeping. So the training talks about best practices, talks about safety, talks about some things specific to COVID 2019. So it's an opportunity for us to show how important this cleaning and how serious we take the cleaning of their properties, how serious we take that.
Great, thank you. More information to come on these. So the agenda today is pretty simple. We'll go over the webinar tool just to get you guys familiar. We'll do an introduction of our panelists, and we'll leave the bulk of the time for Q&A and discussion. You'll submit questions using the Q&A box seen on your screen. Please utilize this rather than the chat box feature. That will help keep us organized. Dirk will be monitoring the Q&A box closely and will be sure to direct questions as necessary. Any questions that we aren't able to address on the live webinar will be addressed in follow-up correspondence. Just a friendly reminder before we get started, VRMA cannot provide legal advice. The purpose of this webinar is simply for our panelists to provide perspective and ideas that they've implemented. Please remember to follow your state laws and regulations. Now we'd like to introduce our panelists. So Dirk, you can go ahead and take it away.
Excellent. Welcome one and all. I'm joined today by 3 outstanding individuals. Joe Rafosco out of TaylorMade Deep Creek, Maryland, and Tim Cafferty, who is out there, right, showing his ambidextrous hand there as he goes through from Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, and the infamous and all-wise Michelle Williams out of Gloucester, Massachusetts with Atlantic Vacation Homes. So welcome. We are glad you've taken time to be with us today. And, the masks are a necessary piece. However, since we are spread across the country, I think I'm going to lose mine because now I can't see because I've done mine inappropriately and I can't see my glasses. So anyway, there we go. So before we jump into this, wanted to take a moment and thank all of you for taking time out of your day as this is hectic. We understand that information is changing from day to day, even by hour, depending on the day and time in which you're working. And so there's a couple of things that we wanted to address up front. And then we have some questions that were submitted that we'll go through. And as we're doing this, please continue to type in your questions and things you'd like to know in the Q&A box. We're happy to address those as we go. And if we do not get to your question or your concern, then there will be an opportunity through the Slack piece to answer your questions from that perspective. So before we begin, I do want to provide a foundation or a framework or definitions in regards to sanitization and disinfection. While they are similar, they are very, very different. So when I disinfect a product, that means the product has been tested specifically for that virus or microbe, and it has to sit on a surface for a specific amount of time, called a dwell time, and then it kills the microbe or the virus. And so, so when we disinfect something, that means we've allowed the product to sit on the surface, and then we can come through and clean it up afterwards. When we sanitize, sanitizing means I've reduced the number of microbes on the surface, and I've reduced the likelihood of getting sick. And so there's a difference there. The disinfectant means that I've killed the microbes on the bottle that it says it's been tested against, whereas a sanitizer simply reduces the number of microbes that are on the surface. And so as we start to go through the conversation today, I'm going to ask that you keep these two definitions in the back of your mind, because hard surfaces we can disinfect, soft surfaces, couches, things of that nature, we can sanitize. And so we want to make sure that we're working with that based on the current products that we have available. So with that, I do want to say that there are many questions in regards to cleaning products and which product should I use and all those things that go with that. And the best advice that we can give you is to go to the EPA website, and they have a list. Last time I checked, there was almost 400 products that were tested against COVID 2019 and that are disinfectants against it. And so look at that list and then reach out to your local janitorial supply company or your local rep to see what products they can get, because the logistics chain on this is all messed up. And so you have to work with what people can get into your hands to work with. So, so that's where we'll start. And so the first question we'll throw to the panelists is this. What are you doing to take care of your staff, to keep them safe as they go in and clean? Michelle, we'll start with you.
Oh, sure. So right now we have an order in Massachusetts that we cannot be doing short-term rentals for the time being. However, we do have some longer-term rentals and other things that we've needed to go in and do some sort of departure inspections and cleanings. So we're really making sure that from everyone's safety perspective, that we're using the proper products, as to what you were just saying, Dirk, and also making sure that people have masks and gloves. We're also putting in some wait time and really waiting, full 24 hours before anyone goes in, and even trying to space out between the cleaning and the inspection, another 24 hours.
Okay, thank you. Tim?
Well, I'll just add that, first of all, I am so glad we are talking about guests back in houses. We have been talking so much about disaster plans and how am I going to make it. It is just refreshing to actually talk about the possibility of guests being in our properties, which a lot of us don't have right now. I do have a strange situation when I have two locations. I'm on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. We have a roadblock in place. Since March 17th, they haven't allowed any visitors. And since March the 20th, they haven't allowed any non-resident property owners. That has been very contentious. And in fact, there has been a lawsuit filed against our local control group to allow the non-resident property owners to get back on. And for the first time in the last couple of days, we've started to hear conversation about how they're going to restart the process about letting people back on. It's been referred to as a dimmer switch rather than a light switch. That may be a while we come back, but we're going to get the property owners back on first, let them finish up their projects, et cetera. At least that's what we're told. And quite frankly, we may need to apologize to those people because they feel like they haven't been treated very well. But in terms of dealing with guests here, we don't have that. But in our second location in Virginia Beach, we actually still have guests there. And so we are dealing with guests. And so my company has put in a policy that we will not enter a property if there is not appropriate spacing. So if we have a guest that's in the house, there's a limitation of 10 occupants. If we're going in to do a callback or a mid-stay clean, we've asked them to please vacate the property. That's one of our critical parts, in addition to the personal protection equipment as well.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Joe.
Yeah, you got three different people here from three different states, so obviously the mandate's totally different. We're similar. We do not have any guests at the time in our rentals, so it's a little easy for us, but, and there's always that but, we have homeowners that are living in areas that are in DC, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh, so we cannot tell them to come to their house. There's no mandate on the roads that can tell them not to come in their house. So I'm getting still 30% occupancy on owners blocking off their house. Our mandate's up on May 1st. Our governor's coming back on today, so I believe he's going to push that back again. I heard rumors that Memorial Day weekend is probably going to be a washout. So we've been dealing with this, and just like Tim said, it's nice that we're looking at the tail end of it and hopefully looking for these renter or housekeepers to get back in these houses. But we are doing it now. I'm doing housekeeping for all the owners that are leaving. Some of the policies we put into place were the first day it was 24 hours because that's what we heard the news was telling us. It moved to 48 hours within a day later, and I think a couple hours after that we all decided to make it 72 hours. So our policies are changing daily when it comes to just daily procedures with these girls. But I'm the only one in my office as we speak right now with my wife Jody as well as Chad, and we tried to maneuver all the things that we have. But now what we're focused on is what policies are we going to do to keep them here. So our governor made a mandate for the next 3 months, no matter what you're going, starting tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, you have to wear a mask. You saw us wear it. We have to wear a mask in every retail store we go into. So we're going to make that across the board with our housekeepers as well. So I got a whole list of all the policies and procedures that are marked up and we're changing, from disposable gloves wearing in every house to, one of the biggest things we did for summertime, we already did most of our bookings in January and February. One of the things that Jody and Chad and myself just discussed is instead of a 10 o'clock checkout, let's do a 9 o'clock checkout that gives us that extra hour. And in the check-in, we did a 5 o'clock checkout instead of a 4 o'clock checkout that gives us 2 hours a day. We feel that mandate would be us being able to get in the houses sufficient enough and disinfect the houses. So we're putting a lot of things in place, and I hope it works.
Yeah. So as we start to look at this, so we've talked about, having the right cleaning products off the EPA list and making sure we're doing that. And then the other thing to consider as you have these products is the safety data sheet that you have the correct personal protective equipment. So the next question has to do with personal protective equipment. And that is, where are you finding personal protective equipment? So now we'll go in reverse order. We'll go Joe first, and then Tim, and then Michelle.
Yeah, so we're very lucky. We also have a laundry in our facility. So I do have a chemical guy that I deal with personally. I talk to him every week. He has suggested some chemicals to use. But for the most part, though, we have a disinfectant. I got very lucky in the beginning because I ordered it prior to everyone else ordering everything up. So I'm stocked on that with the mask, gloves, disinfectant, spray, aerosol. There's some other products that we're looking at this time. But again, they're in the just preliminary statuses at this point.
Tim?
In terms of just basic stuff, I have had some luck going to the hardware stores and finding gloves on
Hey,
random
look at
days.
that.
So you go at certain times of the day, when they restock, you go in the painting section and you can find I always say it wrong, nitrile gloves or the
Yes.
latex gloves.
The nitrate gloves, yeah.
And so they usually come in packs of 100, and when I see 2 packs, I grab them. And the other, I will say, child labor comes in really handy. I have a 16-year-old twins, and they are busy getting every piece of elastic they can find in the area, and they have a sewing machine, and they are knocking them out about 10 a day. And so, of course, it's a little entrepreneurial spirit. They're charging me for the masks, of course.
What?
But,
I hope you're charging them rent and lodging back.
Yeah, we have a little contract we're going to negotiate on this, but yeah, there's no place like home, is all I'll say.
Right? Excellent. Thank you. Michelle?
So we actually, to begin with, when all this started, we actually had a bit of a supply of, masks and gloves left over from the previous season. So we were lucky that we were in a decent position. I think Jonathan has ordered more, but we were actually able to donate a little bit to some of the masks we were able to donate locally to the hospitals. So, that was, we were lucky to have that on hand. So.
Excellent. Yes. Excellent. Thank you. One of the questions here on the ones that were submitted beforehand talks about an ozone machine. And so I want to address that briefly. And that is, yes, ozone does kill COVID-19. However, to get to the levels to kill it, it would kill us. So if you have an opportunity to, it's very effective. However, it's effective on the other side too. So we want to make sure that if you are going to go that route, that you do turn it on and that you vacate the property and then you can't come back in. So ozone as an effective cleaning pattern is not such a great choice. Obviously it has its uses in our repertoire of cleaning. And so we want to make sure that it's there. However, on the COVID 2019, that's not the best thing to do. So I do want to circle back to staff safety. I know we have summer coming up, and for a lot of people, summer is already fairly occupied. So that means there's already turns on the books. We're expecting some maintenance issues. So how are you going to address A, the turns, and then B, if there's a maintenance issue and having a maintenance tech go in? And so now we'll start with Tim in the middle, and then Michelle, and then Joe.
Right. And I love Joe's idea earlier about backing up the checkout time to an earlier time and pushing forward the check-in time. I think the key is communication with the guests here. One of the things that's been floated that we're trying to get a grapple on, at least for the majority of the summer, who knows when we're going to get back, if we have any bookings in May, certainly, and then into June, but maybe into July as well. We're looking at suspending all early check-ins. And so that will be a tangible, it's an opportunity. It is a way for us to show our guests in a tangible way that we are taking this very seriously. And as you've said, Dirk, a lot of these disinfectants take several minutes to be effective. And when you multiply that times remote controls and light switches and flat surfaces and faucets and handles and tables, the clean time is going to be much longer than we have had in the past. And so in terms of that, that's something we're looking at. It's going to be a huge financial hit if we wipe it across the board, excuse the pun. But on the back-to-backs, I can't see how we could clean a property in a 3-hour time frame, particularly some of the larger ones. And so that's the main thing I want to get to out there right now. And we're still grappling with it. I'm not ready to make it as a policy, but I've been talking with others about it, and it seems to make sense right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. Michelle?
Definitely would echo all of those sentiments. And I know part of the question was about maintenance, so I can answer
maintenance
some of
item. You want to go that one? Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, in a perfect world, we would not have to enter the property while there are guests and residents. So I think we'll be doing a lot of triaging and really trying to think about, well, what is the actual issue? How much of an emergency is it? Is something, is it like a major plumbing disaster that really, has to be addressed immediately? Or is it a minor inconvenience that, maybe we can fix after the departure, but, slide them a gift voucher, go out to dinner or something, as a trade-off. And I imagine we'll have a lot of those conversations as we move forward. As was said earlier, this is going to be rolled out, when things start coming back online, it's going to be a little bit at a time. June, July may look different than August, September in terms of, how comfortable, people are out in the world again, and, what the restrictions will still be with, masks. We could be wearing masks, for the next, year and a half. We don't know yet. So we're just going to have to keep updating our plans and pivoting when we have to.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Joe?
Yeah, I'd make this short, but I guess the end goal is the peace of mind. And the peace of mind of not only your renters, but your employees. My employees are scared to come back. But it's going to take a lot of teaching as well. One of the biggest things is, you can implement all you want, but they're out there on their own. You don't know if they're actually doing it. It's funny because I'm going to do a short little story. These masks are fine. The one's blue and one's white. My maintenance guy went over to a house one day. He had the blue out and the owner had the white out. So he thought he had his on backwards. He turned around, went and did the work order, came back, talked to the guy. The guy had his turned around because thought he had his backwards. So there's not directions, so and how you're going to do that is a different way of applying it to each people. So I am going to have a company meeting, even if it's this, we'll have to do small videos so they watch them, to make sure they watch them individually, obviously. And I might implement that no one comes into my office. We're going to do no check-ins. We're going to give the bags at the house itself. We're going to try that for a month or two, maybe all summer. So there's things changing daily for us.
Yeah, thank you. So something to consider is people are looking at back-to-backs, and that is, the COVID 2019 as we enter, we have to make sure that our cleaners have the appropriate mask, they have it on correctly, and as they enter, that ceiling fans are on and they can open windows as they're cleaning to make sure that there's some ventilation with that, because if it is in the air, we need that air movement to get it out of the way, and the mask does that and the air movement does that. And then, the proper PPE, making sure that we have that, from booties to gloves to glasses or goggles or face shield, whatever they feel is comfortable, we should have on hand for them. There's lots of 3D printing items out there to print your own or make your own shield or whatever. So I think we need to be somewhat creative and work with that, because again, people are afraid.
It's funny. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
Well, I was just going to give, thank you, a little plug. I know, Dirk, one of the things that you talk about all the time is really referring to the safety data sheets that come with the different products, and reading those labels and making sure that, everyone understands what protective equipment needs to be worn with those products. Because sometimes it's actually, recommended that you use a face shield with some of those really heavy duty chemicals. So a mask may not be enough depending on what you're using.
Right. Absolutely.
I think the biggest part is the learning curve of them being put on as well. I went to the store next door this morning and I didn't have a mask on because it's not mandated yet, but I think I was the only one that didn't have one on. So I looked like the outcast instead of the other way around.
Well, not to mention you were towering above everybody else as you walked.
Probably true.
But we're not going to mention that piece. For those of you who don't know, Joe is what, 7 foot, 7.5?
I'm 6'7".
6'7". So sorry, I added an extra foot to you. Here we go. So shifting gears for just a moment, let's talk about owners and spring cleans. Are any of you allowing owners to do spring cleans, to do their own cleans? Michelle, we'll start with you and then go Tim and Joe.
Heck no. So
well, okay, next.
Well, this is something that, we've always, had a sort of mix with, we've had owners over the years who, really pushed back and wanted to be able to do their own cleaning. So this is sort of an opportunity for us to be able to really draw that hard line in the sand and say, no, we have to do it because, we have all these processes, we're trained in these products and, this equipment. So really, being able to say we are the experts, just let us do this. And, it's our responsibility to keep everybody safe, including the owners. So.
Excellent. Tim, did I do that right?
It's a big, no, never. Never did before, never did now. We've always provided deep cleans as a part of our basic services to our property owners because we know that owners suck at cleaning, and so they think they're good.
Sorry, Tim, I missed that point. I couldn't see between the lines. Do you want to say that just a little differently for me?
I will just be kind and say that this is a great opportunity for us to disassemble the jigsaw puzzle and throw all the pieces on the table and figure out what is working well for you, put those pieces back in place. And this is an opportunity for you to pivot, is a good word they're using these days in the industry, to pivot on something else. And this is a great area for you to look at in the future to say, we can't allow it.
Yeah, can't. Excellent. Thank you. Joe?
Yeah, no, I do 98% of our deep cleans. Now, there's some owners that we do allow. They've been, one of the things, they have their own cleaner and they don't want us touching them. But, and one of the things we are going to do, and this is just for tailor-made deep creek vacations, everyone else can do it, but we're going to have a sanitation clean as well as a deep clean. So if they do their own deep clean, they're still going to have to get this sanitation clean before we get back on the market. There's some products out there that I'm looking at that will prolong the ability to kill germs throughout the month. So there's one out there that will kill up to 90 days. We're exploring it right now, but again, the procedures that we're changing are daily, so it could be something different. But as far as deep cleans, no, we don't let the owners. That's one of, I think we're about 28% of our houses just got done in the last 3 weeks. So we're moving pretty good on deep cleans at this point.
Excellent, excellent. So one question that is coming through on the Q&A side, as well as has been posted here on the ones that were submitted, is linens. How to handle linens, and specifically, let's talk about bedspreads and what we're doing from that perspective. So Joe, we'll start with you, and then we'll go Michelle, and then Tim.
Yeah, because you heard my plan already. I'm in the process of buying 4,500 blankets. It's a very big investment. We are going to try to break down the cost with the owners as well as the rentals, so we're not holding on all of it. But we are discarding all comforters at this point. We're going to bag them up, put them in a closet, and we're going to have a reusable blanket that we're going to clean after every reservation. A king, we're going to buy kings, which is one color for kings and queens, and then a full for fools and twins, a different color. So it's easy for my laundry to be able to pick it up. I know it's going to be a big burden on my laundry, but as housekeeping goes and making the beds, it's just going to be a little easier for them. They're not going to have to worry about the decorative pillows and all that. So that's the route we're going right now. But we feel it's the best thing we can do.
Okay. Michelle?
So we have not made a final decision yet on what we're going to do, but, we're under those discussions. One idea is to just replace all the blankets or very light comforters, which is an opportunity anyway from sort of a branding perspective if every bed looks truly the same. Another route that we're thinking about is maybe having duvet covers, which we don't have now, that then we can just be swapping out those duvet covers on top of the blankets. So
yeah, excellent. Thank you. Mr. Cafferty?
The only thing I'll add, Joe's a tough act to follow on that. We are not buying 400 blankets at this point. I just told her we're cutting out the income from early check-ins. So I don't know if anyone will leave me alone on that. We do have some loaner ones with our logo on it, which is pretty cool. So if we did something like that, we put our logo. But what we didn't address is the sheets and the towels in the property. Right. This is a great opportunity as well for you to look at what you're doing. And I know some of you out there, I'm not going to shame you, but I know some of you are doing laundry in the units. That is not the way to go. Professionally cleaned linen. And if you do not have your own laundry, this is a great opportunity to look at that, not only for the safety of your guests, but as a potential profit center, which Mr. Rafosco could certainly talk to you about. You have interest in that. He does a great job there too.
Yeah, so I mean and therein lies the key is we start talking about this microbe, and the closest thing that we have to people are the sheets and the pillowcases. And so we want to make every effort to make sure that those are handled in an appropriate machine with appropriate temperatures, appropriate chemistry, and appropriate heat, not only in the washing machine and in the dryer as they go through to do that. There is
one more thing with that too. And Joe had mentioned, I think Joe mentioned throw pillows. One of the other things that we're looking at is really trying to scale back or eliminate those types of sort of more decorative and like the little throw blankets that draped across the couch and things like that, and things of the owners that we can just maybe put away, and just not have out, because then that's more things to wash and more things that get touched. And
yeah,
so.
Yeah, for sure. So as we build on this linen question, multiple questions here inside the Q&A about pillows. So I would advocate that every pillow has a pillow protector to help protect the pillow as they go forward. And then also going, again, laundering those items in a commercial environment to make sure, because again, the heat and the chemistry are going to take care of any viruses that would be there for that. And then to Joe's comment about his blankets, as we're all trying to decide what's best, there's a question or suggestion here about triple sheeting. And triple sheeting is where you have the fitted sheet, flat sheet, blanket, and then another sheet over the top. Again, that is another option for you to look at. Another option would be to go with a fitted sheet and then a sheet duvet. There are lots of sheeting options out there available for you to look at what your inventory is and what the supply is. So one thing about supply, and that this is something we all need to consider, is that the supply chains are elongated now. So if you're going to order linen, or if you're going to order a large quantity of something, your suppliers are stretched out. And so now is the time, as you start to plan to open and look at your work and what you need, to start talking to your suppliers about what's going to take place and how long it's going to take to get some of those items. As you well know, in trying to get disinfectant, those chains are stretched tight, and the product is sold even before it gets off the truck in the warehouse for the local janitorial supply company. So I recognize that we're all still trying to operate a business in a disaster type mode, and yet we have to start thinking a little bit out ahead to know what we're going to do. I thought someone had a comment there on the panel. It looked like it anyway.
No, but that's a good point, Dirk. We're not looking at right now when it's not going to open up, because we never know. But are we going to be ready when it does open up? And that's spending some money right now. That money that we are not getting in. So it's a very difficult decision for us. But again, I'm not going to go into a Memorial Day weekend and not be ready.
Yeah, far better to be prepared and ready and then not have it, as opposed to have them show up and you be ill prepared. From that.
And if it goes into 4th of July, I just use Memorial Day weekend because we're sitting and praying.
Absolutely right. Because I attended a webinar yesterday and they talked about oxygen, and oxygen for us as a human body, we need to survive, and cash is the oxygen for a business to survive. Mm-hmm. And so having that cash on hand to do that. And again, as a business owner, that's our responsibility, is to have that cash to do what we need to do. So a couple of questions here on the Q&A that I want to address quickly. Someone asked if a black light kills COVID 2019. A black light does not kill COVID 2019. It shows proteins and optical brighteners. There is, however, a UV light that will kill the virus. It, however, is this giant robot that goes into a room that hospitals use, and it turns on and kills everything that way. So I'm still looking for that UV light, because that would be pretty cool for us to work with. But the answer to the question about the black light is no, it won't do it. And it doesn't even show it because, again, the COVID 2019 is a virus and it's so small. There's another question here about safety gear and PPE for contract cleaners. And from a contract cleaner standpoint, any PPE or any work they do is on them. However, to you as a business owner, I would meet with them as a business owner and talk about what cleaning products are you using. I would talk about what processes you're using and explain to them that this is a business-to-business relationship. How are we going to collaborate to move forward with this? Just like you're meeting with the janitorial supply company, if you're a property manager, you have to have this relationship, and you have to have that lined out. Let's see here. Team meetings. There was a question about team meetings. As we were talking about team meetings, I spoke with Bob Oakes this morning, how he's using Zoom to get everybody together and to have team meetings and keep everybody connected. How are you guys doing that and keeping people connected? Tim, we'll start with you, and then Joe and Michelle.
I think Bob took my idea, just personally.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, so we do the Brady Bunch thing where we look to the line, and we look down, looked over, and waved to each other. We have the Monday morning Zoom. That's what we're doing now, 10 o'clock every week. And so it's become epic. I have had my attorney sit in on that to make sure I'm not saying anything I shouldn't say.
Ooh, look at you.
Wise to make sure you are covering all the safety precautions that you have in place as a business owner. Not all of you are, but those of you that are, make sure you let them know. This is my expectation. We have one-way halls. We have stairwell going up, a stairwell going down. We want one person per office, whatever those regulations are. We make sure we're telling them. And I saw a follow-up question on the Q&A. Somebody was asking about, did I have the same rules that I have for housekeeping for maintenance? And the question is, and the answer is yes. My maintenance team knows if they're there to fix the commode, I'm sorry, I will need to get into that room and you're going to need to move to another part of the house, that sort of thing. So that came through the communication that we have. And we actually have a little contest just to wrap that up every week. Who has the best background? And so right now, we're not sure with us if it's the mood lighting of Dirk or the beautiful background of Michelle. So,
well, you know, Joe would be saying his because he's got the Steelers in the background.
Of course.
He's at.
It's important. We have one sales agent who's plays the guitar, and he's got his guitars behind him every week. And then I guess with Zoom, you can make a background. And so my marketing guy had Joe Exotic as a background the other day, you know, for the Netflix series. So just like this.
Too good. Michelle, please.
Yeah, we've been doing Zoom meetings as well. You know, and Jonathan in our office has been keeping us entertained with the different backgrounds. He's got one with like a dinosaur chasing him. Yeah, but you know, we'll see as we continue on into the summer. You know how many meetings will need to remain online versus in person. You know, everything sort of hinges on this, you know, lightening of restrictions and, you know, when we can start doing more in-person things. You know, some things may stay online and other things may, you know, we may be able to do more in person as we get further into the next month or two.
Joe, before you comment, can I say one thing on this?
No. You left yourself open on that one.
I know, I totally did. Hello. So, and this goes back to that planning question, and that is we're so busy doing the business that sometimes we have to pause to work on the business. So based on this, you know, what can we do from a process standpoint now that we've all worked remotely? How can we take advantage of this going forward to make sure we have the best staff that we can to go forward? Again, you know, it may be that we all get back in the office. It may not be. Again, you have to decide that for each person individually. Okay, Joe. Get on my soapbox.
After that. No, we're obviously Zoom. We have, you know, we always had a manager meeting every Tuesday morning. Now we do it on Zoom. It's a lot more fun. We try to make it serious when we can, but the second week, as you were saying, little backgrounds, Chad comes in his little blow up dinosaur in one meeting, and you know, it just kind of breaks the mood a little bit because everyone was scared anyway. But it's you know who your good employees are, and you know who your okay employees are when it comes to working from remotely. Nice job there, Michelle.
Good, Michelle.
So
Michelle.
A lot of them, I do have weekly meetings with Zooms. It works out very well, but it does keep them together. We actually, at the end, on Wednesdays and Fridays, we have happy hour Zooms now, and there's like 30, 40 people on there. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. So question from the current audience, and that is Alex is asking, how much of the best practices are you publicizing to your guests? And I will adjust the question just slightly and say, what are you telling your guests? How are you marketing to your guests? And so we'll go Joe, Tim, and Michelle.
Again, those are changing. Right now, we're only dealing with owners. So what we decided in the beginning that we are not going to go into any house because we know how serious it is, but at first we were saying no one goes into any house, no exception. We, like I said, we started at 24. Now we're at the 72 hours. So I even stopped hot tubs cleanings. I didn't want anyone going around the hot tubs in case someone was in the house. As our education went more and our social distancing was working a little better, and we got the mask and we got the gloves, I let go of a lot of those individual policies now. I had a couple leaky roofs this weekend from owners being in, and the shingles blew off because we had high winds. We are fixing them now. 2 weeks ago, I probably wouldn't have touched them and said, hey, we'll deal with it when you guys are gone. But I'm stepping the boundaries a little bit and helping out when we can.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, we're going old school. I'm the old guy, so we're going old school. The door hangers are critical when we do go to properties, and they have this little handy dandy thing we're putting out as well. We have a welcome bag. There's a slot on the side of the welcome bag, and so we made a rack card, and it says, we care about you and your family. We're doing our part to make sure you and your family have arrived in a safe environment. We're taking extra steps to sanitize the property, doorknobs, remotes, light switches, appliance consoles, etc. And so it's there in writing when they come in. And so gives me comfort anyway.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. Michelle?
So in terms of communicating with guests, we do have a page on our website, in our blog, and it's linked from the homepage, that talks about just in general, sort of what are we doing right now in relation to COVID. And it covers a lot of different things from, cleaning to cancellation and just across the board, sort of what are those common questions. We're not in the habit of really getting into like super, super detail with guests as to specifics around the cleaning and we do this and we do that and we get this product and that product. But we have said that, we have stepped up our protocols. Of course, we have always had a very high standard for cleaning, but, with this, we are now, we've stepped up the protocols. We are paying more attention, to those certain high touch areas, making sure that, all the doorknobs or, that kind of, those types of surfaces are disinfected. And one thing that we are looking to change this year is we actually use a service for our linen and towels, and they come to us wrapped in plastic. The towels do. The sheets do as well, but we obviously have to open those to make the beds. But in the past, we've put the towels out outside of the packaging and kind of left them, prettily arranged. And this year, we've talked about leaving the towels in the plastic wrapping, but putting some signage, similar to Tim's, where we can say, the towels are wrapped, for your, protection and health. And then this helps us too, because we know when we go back into the home later, if that package is unopened, then it's still clean and we don't need to wash it again.
Michelle, have you thought about doing the same thing with your sheets and letting the guests make their own beds? We
haven't. It's an interesting idea. We might talk about it, but as of right now, we have not made a decision like that.
Okay. I'm just curious because of the one side. I'm just curious. All right. Let's see. Tim, Joe.
Jody brought that up. Do we wrap everything and put them on the edge of the beds? And then you got to make sure every one of your mattress pads looks fine and dandy with no stains on them. Then you have to worry about what kind of mattress they have. No, we're going to make the beds. We are going to stick with that. And if we use the blankets, then it's going to be easy for the housekeepers to be able to make the beds quickly and efficiently.
Cool. All right. Tim, did you answer this question or did I skip over you?
I have nothing to add.
Nothing to add. Okay, so question from the Q&A panel here. Brittany is asking, this is going back to the PPE question, and it's specifically about masks. How many masks do you provide for each employee?
Good question. These are disposable masks that we have, so you only get to use them one time. You can use it throughout the day if you keep it on. That doesn't have an applicator on it, but they're not cheap. For me to be able to send them out to everybody, I'm doing it as a company saying I am providing them to you. You can see a lot of other people have the winter mask that they can put on that I'm going to make sure they're efficient enough as well. So either they have their own, or I'll probably provide each one with two at this point.
And then, Tim, the ones you're having made, those are cloth masks, correct?
They are. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Dirk, but my understanding of the mask is it more protects the other people around you rather than you being protected from inhaling the virus or what have you.
For these masks, yes.
And so in terms of the mask, like back to Joe, a year ago, or gosh, 4 months ago, if you had asked me, I'd say we give them as many as they need, because we had them in the, the
Right.
warehouse, and they'd grab 3 and they're good, but not now, because they might take 50. So
Right.
the full masks seem to be a good option right now.
Yeah. Anyway, so go ahead, Michelle. And then
I was just going to say, masks, same comment. Gloves, I really as many as they need. I think, those are, disposable, and they're still fairly easy to get. The thing about the gloves is where it's different from the masks is with the gloves, you're touching everything. So you don't want to necessarily reuse gloves from house to house.
Right.
So it's being able to, dispose of those safely and grab another pair as you need to.
I like that. There is a technique of how to take off gloves, and Dirk has that somewhere.
And masks.
Yeah. Those videos are there on the VRHP Vimeo channel for everyone to see. So now shifting gears from personal protective equipment to human resource question. How are you advertising and finding cleaners, knowing that this is a COVID world, so to speak?
So I can talk to that a little bit because we were just having a conversation about that this morning. In the past, it's been actually difficult in our area, and even talking with other, lodging owners in our area, everyone's sort of fighting for the same resources. Right now we are thinking that with so many people unemployed, over the next couple months, it will be actually easier, and there'll be a lot of people looking for work.
Okay.
So, we're feeling hopeful there, but we haven't done a lot of full hiring yet for the summer. We do work with some contract cleaners, and we'll be kind of looking at, what we're going to be able to do in the next few weeks in terms of hiring.
Okay, excellent. Mr. Cafferty?
I'm hopeful as well. We haven't gotten to that point yet in terms of the supply and demand, in terms of what we need for housekeepers, professional cleaners versus how many there are. I am hopeful. I do not know the answer to that. It's a great question. Are people going to be concerned about going into the properties? I'm not sure. I kind of like what Michelle said, and that's what I'm hoping, that people are looking for work. They're looking for ways to make ends meet, and particularly things like the restaurant industry is not going to come back as quickly as we will. We talked about the dimmer switch earlier. It's going to be a real slow dimmer switch for the restaurant industry from what we hear.
Yeah.
So maybe those servers are now interested in a second career. So ask me in a month or two. I'll let you have a better answer.
All right, fair enough. Mr. Joe?
So I got 4 girls working right now on my cruise, and they do the precautions that we need. I put everything out in their car for them as they need their linens and deep cleans being done. It's scary, going into Memorial Day weekend. I should have 75 crews. I got 4 right now. So do I know half my crew's coming back, or if all of them are coming back? I'm trying to communicate it with them. My GM is talking to them every other week with a full text, is saying where we are, where we stand, what we're planning on, what the government's saying, what the health department's saying. So communication is probably the key with them. But one thing that Jody put out there, and I think it was the very most important thing, is you guys are leaders, and they listen to us. And I'm not saying I make the best decisions or the right decisions, but make the most educational decision that you have out there. Do your research. If you need help, then there's people out there to be able to help you, as far as Dirk and myself, us, all 3 of us here, right here. So please do your research and listen to them, because they're going to listen to you as you being a leader.
If I could interject one more thing on that, that's a great point, Joe. If you were not a highly desired place to work before, you're probably not going to be in good shape now. But
Right.
If you were taking care of your people and they felt good about working with you, I think most of them will come back. But that's a great idea right there about the communication. Quite frankly, I don't even know if those cleaners who were working with me before are even in the area now. There's been a lot of change here the last month or so, but we need to get it straight, because we all have the same crush coming soon.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. I would agree with all that. And, Dirk, I was watching some of the videos that you put out and kind of rewatching some of them. And there was one, and I don't remember which one because there's a lot of them, but there was an article that you had read. I think it was like Harvard Business Review.
Yes.
Yeah, so you know which one I'm talking about. And there was a quote or a point from that article about, just because there's information out there does not mean that somebody is informed.
Right.
And that really struck with me. And I think that goes to that training question. So, as a leader and making sure your teams have the information they need, make sure they have the information, but also make sure that they have been informed by that information and they've absorbed it and are, able to then make decisions on the job that are appropriate for, the instructions that they've been provided.
Yeah, thank you. Because everybody digests the information differently, and always in our head, I'm worried about the text, I'm worried about my babysitter, I'm worried about my next rent payment, I'm worried about, whatever the case may be. And so there's all this noise in our mind. And so trying to get through to that to make sure that there's this understanding, for sure. A question that, so I'm going to make, so there's a question from before is the direction I'm going to go as I was trying to decide in my mind. And that is about cleaning fee refunds. Have you thought about that as guests start to come back, and how are you going to handle that particular scenario? We'll go rock, paper, scissors for who goes first.
Well, I have a clarifying question. Yeah, I guess I don't know. In terms of refunds, like if somebody felt like cleaning wasn't done thoroughly enough, or
so I'll read it verbatim here on my sheet. It says, "What is the best course of action when a client asks for a discount because of a cleaning issue?"
I mean, generally, if there's ever a question about cleaning, our first course of action is to, offer to re-clean it. And that's preferable. And we're in the normal world, right? But pre-COVID, we'd send somebody right away and say, we're more than happy to come take care of that for you. If it's something that somebody doesn't bring up until, they're practically, on their way out the door, and, oh, by the way, when we got here, it wasn't clean. I mean, everyone has sort of different policies on how to deal with that kind of situation. With the new COVID world, I think the more that we can tell our stories and be able to talk to guests before they arrive about, how the property has been prepared and, disinfected, sanitized, et cetera, we can potentially ward off some of those types of situations if people are feeling comfortable when they come in that we've done everything we could do to make sure that that's a healthy and clean environment.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, I pretty much ditto that. It is normal world. You go back and just clean it up. You don't worry about any discount at all. But the biggest thing and that is just making sure you're using your safety distancing precautions, face masks, everything that we taught and teach and look at the new norm.
Yeah.
On that, I'm looking at the clock. We're running out of time here. I just can't help but think that, of course, those calls usually come in 3 days after they checked in. Right. And of course, we already handled the problem. You don't need to send anybody else back, right? And so you just pay me or whatever. The benefit I have there is we actually don't charge a cleaning fee. It's part of our overall program. But one of the questions we got in advance was, how are you going to deal with this extra cleaning that you're having to do? Are you going to increase your fees? Are you going to charge your owners? Are you going to charge the guests? How are you going to handle it? And I don't know. That's the thing. We're talking about housekeepers doing less properties, longer times. We got to hire more people. Something's got to give here. And I don't have a great answer for that. I'd love to hear what the other guys have and ideas.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Someone's got to pay for it one way or the other. So yeah, we're trying to figure that out as well, and just look at what our costs are and, how much time it's taking the cleaners to do that extra amount of cleaning and, letting products settle before it's, wiped and all that. And especially if we're adding to our, linen and laundry practices, yeah. We have to just look at what is it going to cost us and how can we pass that on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right, because it really comes from two places, right? Well, it either comes from the guest, or it comes from three places. It comes from the guest, it goes comes from the owner or it comes from your profits. I mean, essentially, those are the three places it comes from.
Yep.
Right.
Joe, you're going to say something before I jump.
Most likely it comes out of my pocket. But we try to find ways to be able to do it. We are going to do a sanitation clean to every house, and we're going to charge approximately, we were talking about this morning, $150 to do it. And it's not, if they had a deep clean and they aren't mandatory to do it, but we are going to make it mandatory for every home to come on as of now. I mean, it could change next week, but
right.
We're just looking at ways to be able to pay for it. It's difficult. Any new reservation, it's easy to add on, but these old reservations, it's probably most likely coming out of us or the homeowner, and we can only eat so much. But it's going to have to be done.
Right. It has to be done. There's no question. There's no question. So before I ask another question, there was a request to go back and revisit how long COVID 2019 lives for. And so I just want to revisit that briefly. It lives on copper. So if you have a copper toilet, I'm not sure any of you do in your properties, it lives for 4 hours. On cardboard, we're at 24 hours. On stainless steel and at plastic, we're at least 3 days, so 72 hours. Now, again, the question then becomes is what's the viability of the virus after that length of time? But that's what the letter to the New England Journal of Medicine is telling us. And so as you start to the panel in our waning moments here, I'll ask this final question, then I have another question for you. And that is, if you had a choice between employees and contractors, which would you choose?
To do what?
To clean.
I think generally employees, we do work with contract cleaners right now. And there's pros and cons. One of the pros of having, employees is that you are better able to, provide direction about certain things. I'm able to, as you said, business to business with our contract cleaner, and their crew, able to say, here's kind of what we need and want, and, let's kind of figure out how to make that happen. But it's easier for your employees to be able to turn around on a dime on some things too. So,
okay.
Like if you need something done like super urgently, can you just run over here? It's easier to do that with someone that's on staff.
Okay. Tim?
I tend to answer abruptly. I can't believe it's a question, particularly now. Employees, are you going to leave the safety of your guests to a subcontractor that you cannot tell how to clean, where to clean, when to clean? The answer better be no. Employees.
Okay. Joe?
No, I did it with that. Yes, employees. I've really never had any contractors, and I've been doing this for a long time. It's easier to control them. Like Tim said, you can send them somewhere pretty easily, or Michelle said, but definitely employees.
Yeah. I will say that, with the contract team that we're using now for our cleaning, we do have a really good relationship, and they've been fantastic to work with. So it's possible,
Okay.
but I would agree generally, yeah, the employee side, it's better.
That's the one.
You found the one.
Found the one. Too funny. Too funny. Well, excellent. To the panelists, we are grateful for your time today. You've been more than gracious and generous as you've had to manage your business and do all those things of that nature. There are many of you that have asked questions that we have not been able to get to. Jessica will come on and tell us how we will get you those answers and work through some of those and go from there. And encourage all of you to be safe, be healthy, and keep asking questions, because again, it's a moving target. And as much as I wished it weren't, reality is that it is. And that's why the VRMA and VRHP are here to assist you with those answers and those questions, and to help you find the best path forward for your particular business and for your particular entity. So as we now head off into the world, let us all don our masks, and we bid you a fond adieu.
Bye. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to all of our panelists. And again, any questions that were not answered will be followed up in the Slack group. If you're not already a member of that group, you can find information on how to join on the COVID-19 resources page, or it will be included in the follow-up email that will be sent out following the conclusion of this webinar. Be sure to join us for next week's gathering on navigating the regulatory landscape. That registration information is available on our website and will also be included in the webinar follow-up email. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.